Before we get started, I finally have some t-shirt designs that you can go check out on Teespring, which I've linked below. Go ahead and make sure you order one in the next few days so that it can be here for the actual holiday season, because I would say Sunny wearing a sweater with a Carping logo is pretty wintry, right? Either way, there's a bunch of different colors and a couple designs that you can check out there, so maybe you'll like them. Okay, let's get started. So it's starting to get cold in a lot of places around the world, so I thought today would be a good time to talk about some things that you can do to prepare and make sure your animals are ready for the cooler weather. So ideally, your animals are probably inside, so it's not like super extreme drastic changes, but there's still a good chance that your house will be dropping temperatures based on what you have it set at and just how cold it really is outside, and your animals aren't necessarily ready or made to necessarily do best in cooler temperatures based on where they are from. Now, the very first thing I would say is something that I try to do, I'm gonna probably do it right after this video, is go around to all of your enclosures and check every single heat source that you can't actually see, whether it's heat mats or ceramic bulbs or, I guess that's it. Because each time I usually notice there might be one thing that just stopped working, like maybe there was an enclosure that I forgot was resting on a heat mat so it ended up breaking, or a ceramic bulb that just ran out of bulbness or whatever happens when they break. Last time I mentioned this, quite a few of you did actually find that you had one or two things that weren't working. So you can just go around and put your hand on a heat mat or put your hand under a bulb or something just to make sure they're all working exactly how you think they are, because they don't necessarily last forever. Same thing with your thermostats. Even though I think most of the time they're very accurate and I haven't had any break, it's possible that because it's an electronic device, it just stopped working or got off a little bit, so it doesn't hurt to check them. You might want to do this with some sort of other heat checker to basically have a second opinion almost on the temperature just using another device, whether it's something like a temp gun or something like another little thermometer here. These are the two things I use the most often. I have a kit linked below with all of the heating stuff that I'm using and talking about in this video, so you can get them on Amazon. I would just point this at the spot where your thermostat is. So maybe this ends up saying 89 and then your thermostat says 90. That's pretty close. If it's just a few degrees, I like to see if they basically average out to the same thing. But then if one is like 8 to 10 degrees off, you might get a little bit concerned because it's possible that this is just broken, or it is possible that there's an issue with the thermostat. But again, good time to check. Also, nighttime temperatures. A lot of you, including me with some of my animals, don't really have to do much in the warmer months with the nighttime temps because they're going to drop anyway and it's still warm enough. However, I have to add more heat sources with some of my animals at night with them just because it is a bit too cool for what they would prefer. Now, the thing is, you don't just want to use like a heat lamp in the middle of the night because it's going to be a bit bright. There are the red and blue dimmer lamps, which we've talked about, and I wouldn't say it's like inherently bad to use these. Personally, I avoid the lights at night, and you could argue like moonlight lets off light normally outside, but these bulbs are pretty bright. We've talked about it before, but people have gotten confused where like you see a red heat bulb and you're like, oh yeah, it's red, so my leopard gecko can't see it. When in reality, they might not necessarily be able to see the color because it looks like, I've gotten mixed responses. Some people say they don't have the right color cone to actually see it, but regardless, they can see that light. Whether that's bad or not, it's kind of up to you. I think they're a bit too bright most of the time. Some are probably fine. That's something to think about though. So usually what I do to lift the nighttime temperatures is use a ceramic heat emitter, which I had somewhere. Here it is. They look like this. They come in different colors, but these truly do not let off any light. These are just infrared, and they let off the heat. The issue is these dry the enclosures out a lot, and you can kind of say bye to a lot of that humidity. Now you can do things to combat that humidity loss, like using different types of substrate that are compatible with your animal, and maybe just spraying your enclosure more if it's an animal that can be sprayed, and so on, like that. I did a video a while ago on increasing and decreasing humidity. It's pretty old, but I think most of the information should still help you out with that. But really, a rundown is if you use these to change the temperatures without actually adding bright lights on the enclosure. Some main things you can do are changing the substrate, spraying more. If you're using a screened enclosure, covering part of the screen can work, like putting a piece of plastic over it, not all of it because they need oxygen. Or if you really had to do something really drastic, you could consider what the animal is in. For example, plastic tubs are known to hold humidity a lot better. So maybe that would work better for you compared to a glass aquarium. Then another thing you can think about is the water temperatures for your aquatic animals. Some animals can get pretty cold with their water, while others would be better when it's a bit warmer. So far, I haven't had to use anything to actually adjust my water temperatures other than just leaving it how it is, because it's always fallen in that average range. So who knows, maybe I will need to this winter. I'll let you know if I do. But if you have, say, a turtle that needs some warmer temperatures in the water, you can look at the water heaters. They're pretty cheap. I found some for like $10 on Amazon. They have good reviews. I haven't used them, so I can't say from experience. But you could check those out just to make sure your animal isn't like freezing in its water. Of course, they might be used to this depending on where they are naturally, but if you are not brumating the animals, you'll probably have to do this. Speaking of which, if you are wondering about brumation, I've never done it with my animals. A lot of people do with different species, which if you don't know what that means, is just reptile hibernation, where you purposely lower all the temperatures as if it were the natural coolingness of winter. So I'm not a good source to tell you how to brumate or whether you should brumate right now. I never have. It's definitely not required. There are pros and cons to both brumating and not brumating, so that's something you can look into. But these are the things that I suggest that you think about when getting ready for the cooler temperatures with your animals. Really just making sure your sources are working, making sure your thermostats are working, checking all the temperatures, possibly adjusting things, adding different bulbs and stuff, and all of that stuff. If I need to script my videos, I keep saying stuff and things, but that's about it. So let me know anything else that you know about this. But that's just about everything I've thought about so far. So make sure you leave some other ideas or tips in the comments when it comes to heating your animals' enclosures in the winter, other things to think about, or just any other reptile tips in general. But that'll be it for this video. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.